While
Chicken
some
fried
of the dishes
steak.
on this list came to my attention more or
I wanna
less
try this.
immediately after I moved to America, there are some I only found out about in the last couple of years.
6 food dishes I only discovered after moving to America. I love seeing videos about American food. There is so much variety, so much that I would love to try. So looking forward to getting into this. Just before we do that, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button. It massively helps out the channel. We're growing. But yeah, let's just jump in and press play.
Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to food.
Alright, let's get into it.
Specifically, food dishes that I only encountered after moving to the United States.
Biscuits
and I'll be
and
honest
gravy.
with you, those of you who have seen my food-related videos in the past will know that this video could be a list of 150 food dishes.
Chicken
So
fried
I've kept it
steak.
to
It's
6
gotta be on
in the
there.
hope that if it's successful, we'll do a part 2 and a part 3 and a part 4. You get the picture. Now, before we look at the dishes in question, if you've not had a chance to subscribe to this channel, do that now. In the meantime, here are 6 food dishes that I never encountered back in Britain, but did so once I moved here. Before I became a resident of the United States, the words clam and chowder very rarely found themselves emanating from my mouth. And similarly, the food item in question very rarely entered it. In fact, it never did, because clam chowder is, of course, a dish that is specifically synonymous with American cuisine and, even more specifically, Northeastern cuisine. And for my non-American viewers who might be thinking, what the heck is clam chowder? Hopefully not at such a high frequency. Clam chowder is basically a chowder soup that contains clams. Was that really so difficult? Perhaps appropriately for somebody from Old England, I'm most familiar with New England clam chowder. And you might be thinking, ooh, Lawrence, but I thought you lived in the Midwest. And I do live in the Midwest. But something that you need to know about the United States is that while it does have a lot of sort of regional dishes that remain regional to that region, some dishes start life regionally and then make their way across the country. And the same is true of clam chowder. And I remember having it for the first time at a very expensive seafood restaurant. And before you go, oh, Lawrence, it sounds like somebody's getting a little too big for their boots. This was 10 years ago. In Indianapolis. And to prove to you that I remain a completely down-to-earth YouTube sensation.
I'd be interested to try it.
The only other time that I've had clam chowder was in a mall. Because this is America, where there are more food courts than legal courts. That's probably not true.
Meatloaf. I've always been interested.
Ago, Lawrence, what is meatloaf? My answer.
I just got to say, meatloaf you always see in films, on TV programs, and I've never been too sure what it is. But it's something I've always wanted to try.
So would have been unequivocal. Meatloaf is that actor that was in Fight Club. The same guy that used to sing power ballads written by John Steinbeck. I think that's supposed to say Jim Steinman. But during the harsh winter of 2008, was it really that? It wasn't that bad. I was introduced to a food item by the name of meatloaf. And it is literally, as the name suggests, a loaf of meat. Smushed together with other ingredients until it forms the shape of, well, bread. Which I've just realised is the name of another 70s rock group. And just like with bread, it's usually served in slices, which is something I wish somebody would have told me before I tried to eat it with a spoon. Anyway, meatloaf, the food, is not something that most British people would be familiar with. But in doing a little bit of research for this video, I discovered that haislet, which is a cut of meat that originated in my home county of Lincolnshire, is itself a type of meatloaf that doesn't enjoy anywhere near the ubiquity, a word that they dared me to get into the video, that meatloaf does in the United States. While some of the dishes on this list came to my attention more or less immediately after I moved to America, there are some I only found out about in the last couple of years. And indeed, those of you who were watching my channel 2 years ago will know that this includes a dish called chicken fried steak. In fact, if it hadn't been for my collaboration with a Scottish YouTube sensation by the name of Sean, I might to this day have no idea what that is.
Chicken fried steak. Have you ever heard of chicken fried steak?
Never heard of it. Where did you see that?
There was in this diner, and it was, I didn't know if it was chicken or steak, but I think it's beef.
Anyway, don't take my word for it. Instead, here's me from 2 years ago with more details. That's amazing. It's the gravy that makes it. I'm just going to try a little piece without gravy.
I've reacted to videos where they're trying chicken fried steak. I'm trying to remember now. You got country fried steak and chicken fried steak. I can't remember what the difference is. Someone did tell me in the comments what the difference is. But both of them I want to try.
See what that's like. Yeah, even without gravy, it's definitely still fried. But Sean was right. I mean, this is pretty phenomenal, and I think that, you know, if I could, I'd eat one of these every day, but I'd go into cardiac arrest. And perhaps the biggest surprise is that while it does indeed contain steak, and while it is indeed fried, there is no chicken. There are no two ways
Cornbread.
about it. Americans are obsessed with chili. And you might be thinking,
I like
Lawrence,
chili.
the transition slide didn't say anything about chili. What are you talking about? Well, chili in this country is often accompanied by a side dish that seems particularly popular with my wife's family.
Right.
Cornbread. And just to be clear, since there seems to be a pattern emerging here, that is not corn as in the new metal band. No, corn as in cornmeal, which is the chief ingredient of cornbread. And it's pretty nice when it's not green, which is an allusion to a video I made in which it was. Either way, cornbread is one of many examples pointing to America's obsession with corn. At the state fair, you have corn dogs. At
Corn
Halloween,
dogs.
you have candy corn. And in everything,
Love to
you
try
have
that.
corn syrup.
Biscuits
For
and
most of us
gravy.
Brits who relocate
Come on.
here to America, hearing the word biscuits and gravy in the same sentence is profoundly frightening, because there are two things that I think most of us don't know until we move here. Number one, the gravy in question is usually this sort of thick, white concoction that's quite spicy. Compare this to the gravy that we're used to back home, provided by the likes of Bisto, which is a darker, thinner kind of liquid. But the other major difference is the way in which Americans define the word biscuit. In Britain, of course, a biscuit is what Americans would call a cookie. So perhaps you can see why the term biscuits and gravy might make us do a bit of sick. Until we learn that in America, a biscuit is a form of savoury baked bread that they push on you a little too much at Red Lobster. And I say too much because American-style biscuits are actually really nice. And I have been known to devour 6 or 7 of those before my fish and chips arrives. Of course I still eat the fish and chips. Do you think I'm a psychopath? And I must say, since it is a popular dish here in the Midwest, biscuits and gravy is actually quite nice once you overcome the initial trauma.
Tacos.
Finally, tacos.
Oh, again, something I like.
Tacos. An entry that really ought to come with a couple of caveats. Number one, tacos, like a lot of popular dishes
I like
in
Mexican
America,
food.
aren't actually American. To which you are thinking, no they're obviously Mexican. But, as I've spoken about a lot on this channel, Mexican food is very popular here in the US. As I've also pointed out, it has in recent years gained a foothold back in the UK. But I haven't been there for any of that. So I only encountered tacos, both the word and the food, in the years that I've been living on this side of the pond. And of all of the many Mexican dishes you can get here, tacos seem to be the one with which Americans are most obsessed. Basically, if you don't know what tacos are, then you're not from North America. You take a mini tortilla. I know how it's pronounced, I'm just messing with them. And you put whatever on them, chicken, guacamole, beans, salsa, and you wrap
Nice.
it up, usually badly in my case, and you just eat about maybe 3 of them. Personally though, I find it easier and maybe less messy just to have a quesadilla. Which makes me realise this entire list could have just been Mexican food. Well, if I've learned anything today, it's that talking about food makes me really hungry.
Makes me
Because
hungry.
At this point, I haven't yet filmed the bit where I eat the Factor 75 meal. I'm going to do that in a minute, and I'm really excited. But I've also learned that there are a surprising number of American recording artists named after food. Who else have you got? The Smashing Pumpkins, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Pearl Jam.
Biscuits and gravy, definitely something I want to try. Chicken fried steak, I never heard of until I started this channel. When I visit America, I've got to try out the chicken fried steak. 100%. That is something, that biscuits and gravy, there's so much food that I want to try when I go to America. Thank you so much for checking out the video. I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button. It massively helps out the channel we're growing. But for now, I'll catch you on the next reaction.